Welcome to Defense Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: in Kosovo, survivors maintain private museums to preserve evidence of war. U.S. warship shoots down drone and missile in Red Sea. U.S. military's X-37B space plane launched on possible higher orbit mission. What channel is Notre Dame versus Oregon State today? Time, TV. Streaming info for Sun Bowl. Despite Nikki Haley's back and forth, the Civil War was about slavery. In Kosovo, survivors maintain private museums to preserve evidence of war. Washington Post. Kosovo, the former province of Serbia that declared independence in 2008, is in the process of establishing a national war museum to commemorate the Kosovo War that took place from 1998 to 1999. The war is still a contentious issue in the country, with Serbia refusing to recognize Kosovo as an independent state and claiming that the ethnic Albanian Kosovars committed genocide against the Serbian minority living there. The International Court of Justice ruled in 2010 that Serbia's actions in Kosovo did not amount to genocide, but the dispute continues to be a major obstacle to reconciliation between the two countries. In Kosovo, however, the war is seen in a much different light, with many Kosovars, particularly ethnic Albanians, viewing the conflict as a war of liberation from Serbian oppression. The war resulted in the deaths of an estimated 10,000 Kosovars, the majority of whom were ethnic Albanians. U.S. warship shoots down drone and missile in Red Sea. Deutsche Welle. A U.S. warship, the USS Mason, has shot down a drone and an anti-ship ballistic missile fired by the Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen, according to the U.S. military. This is the 22nd attempt by the rebels to attack international shipping since October 19. The Houthis have escalated attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea, through which 12% of global maritime trade passes. The U.S. has imposed sanctions on groups from Yemen and Turkey that it alleges have funded the Houthis. The U.S. has also created a new force to protect ships in the Red Sea. U.S. military's X-37B space plane launched on possible higher orbit mission. South China Morning Post. The U.S. military's X-37B robot space plane has embarked on its 7th mission, marking the first time it has been launched atop a SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket, which can carry it to a higher orbit than previous missions. The launch follows delays due to poor weather and technical issues, and came 2 weeks after China launched its own robot space plane, the Shenlong. The X-37B, which is built to deploy payloads and conduct experiments on long-duration orbital flights before landing on a runway, is part of the U.S. Space Force's National Security Space Launch Program. What channel is Notre Dame versus Oregon State today? Time, TV. Streaming info for Sun Bowl. Yahoo! The Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Oregon State Beavers will face each other in the Sun Bowl in El Paso, Texas. It will be the 13th bowl in the past 14 years for Notre Dame, and the 7th time it has reached double-digit victories in the past 9 seasons. Notre Dame will be without quarterback Sam Hartman and running back Audric Estime, who have opted out of the bowl. Despite Nikki Haley's back and forth, the Civil War was about slavery. Washington Post. Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley has come under criticism for not mentioning slavery as the cause of the Civil War in a recent interview. However, it has been pointed out that the curriculum in South Carolina, where Haley previously served as governor, clearly teaches that slavery was the cause of the conflict. The South Carolina Department of Education posts instructional resources on its website that state that South Carolina seceded because of slavery. Those who try to downplay the role of slavery often argue that it was a states' rights issue, but it is pointed out that states' rights were tied to the issue of slavery. The tension over slavery had been present since the country was colonized, and the issue of slavery was never properly addressed. Red Sea attacks, China's Indian Ocean vulnerability can be its strength. South China Morning Post. China does not need to join the US-led coalition to protect ships in the Red Sea from Houthi attacks, according to a senior colonel of China's People's Liberation Army, PLA. Writing in the South China Morning Post, Senior Colonel Zhou Bo argues that joining the operation would compromise China's position on the Israel-Hamas war and endanger Chinese ships. Instead, China should maximize cooperation with other stakeholders and work to protect its interests by blending them with the interests of others. The PLA Navy has conducted joint exercises with several navies in the Indian Ocean, including Russia, Iran and Pakistan. New books, what's in store in 2024? The Sydney Morning Herald. The Australian literary scene in 2024 promises a wide range of new books from both local and international authors. In the crime and thriller genre, notable releases include novels from Gary Disher, Michael Robotham, J. P. Pomer, Solari Gentile, and Haley Scrivener. Stephen Carroll, Glenna Thompson, and Louise Milligan also venture into crime writing. Several debut crime novels are expected, including works from Christine Gregory, Zahid Gamieldian, Lisa Kenway, and P. A. Thomas. Internationally, Richard Osman and Kate Atkinson have new crime novels coming out in September. In fiction, there are works from Australian authors who have passed away, including Charmian Clift, Georgia Blaine, and Shirley Barrett. Other notable releases include novels from Shankari Chandran, Alice Robinson, Amy Brown, Gail Jones, and Alan Atwood. Internationally, Colm Toibin and Lionel Shriver have new novels coming out. The First Nations writing scene is also thriving, with new works from Bruce Pascoe, Anita Heiss, Julie Jansen, Charlene Alsop, and Michaela Saunders. Essay collections, poetry collections, and works on Indigenous life and history are also expected to be released. Other genres and topics covered in the 2024 book releases include memoirs from Magda Sabansky, Peter Goldsworthy, Dassie Ehrlich, and Rebel Wilson, biographies, sport, politics, climate change, and pressing issues. Overall, the Australian literary landscape in 2024 promises a diverse range of works across various genres and themes, showcasing the talent of both established and emerging authors. Israel-Gaza war in 2024, signs of more devastation, open-ended occupation. South China Morning Post. The war aims of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Gaza's Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar look unattainable in 2024, and their fight may consign the Palestinian territory to yet more devastation and an open-ended Israeli occupation. Maine bars Trump from state's 2024 presidential primary ballot. Bloomberg. Maine's Secretary of State, Shenna Bellows, has ruled that Donald Trump will not be able to run in the state's Republican primary due to his efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. The decision is likely to face court challenges. Bellows cited Trump's conduct leading up to the January 6 insurrection at the U.S. Capitol as the reason for her decision. Trump is the frontrunner for the Republican nomination, and polls show he is leading in the race. Opponents are attempting to prevent him from running for office again. 3 ways Ukraine war could go in 2024. BBC. The conflict in Ukraine is expected to continue throughout 2024, with no clear end in sight, according to military analysts. The war, which has been ongoing since 2014, has reached a stalemate, with Russia controlling about 18% of Ukraine. The prospects for ending the war remain bleak, as both sides are capable of fighting each other to a standstill. Russia lacks the equipment and trained manpower to launch a strategic offensive until at least spring 2025, while Ukraine relies on Western finance and military support to sustain its efforts. The outcome of the conflict may ultimately depend on political decisions made in Washington, Brussels, and other international capitals. The West's unity in supporting Ukraine has shown signs of wavering, emboldening Russian President Vladimir Putin. However, the EU's decision to open membership talks with Ukraine and Moldova suggests continued backing for Kyiv. While the war is likely to continue throughout 2024, a negotiated settlement remains the most foreseeable outcome. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six, your resident observer from the 6 Degrees world, here to bring you the latest news and insights from around the globe. Let's dive right in. In Kosovo, survivors of the war have taken it upon themselves to preserve the evidence of the conflict by maintaining private museums. The war between Serbia and Kosovo from 1998 to 1999 is still a contentious issue, with Serbia refusing to recognize Kosovo's independence. However, in Kosovo, the war is seen as a liberation from Serbian oppression. This stark difference in perspectives continues to be a major obstacle to reconciliation between the two countries. Moving on, a U.S. warship has shot down a drone and an anti-ship ballistic missile fired by Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen. The Houthis have been escalating attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea, posing a threat to global maritime trade. In response, the U.S. has created a new force to protect ships in the area, imposing sanctions on groups allegedly funding the Houthis. In space news, the U.S. military's X-37B space plane has embarked on its 7th mission. This time, it has been launched atop a SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket, allowing it to reach a higher orbit than before. Meanwhile, China's own robot space plane, the Shenlong, was launched just 2 weeks ago. It seems like the space race is heating up, and I can't wait to see what these cosmic adventures have in store for us. Now, let's talk about American history. Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley has come under criticism for not mentioning slavery as the cause of the Civil War in a recent interview. However, it's worth noting that the curriculum in South Carolina, where Haley served as governor, clearly teaches that slavery was the cause of the conflict. The tension over slavery has been present in the United States since its colonization, and it is an issue that was never properly addressed. Shifting our attention to China, a senior colonel of China's People's Liberation Army argues that China does not need to join the US-led coalition to protect ships in the Red Sea. Instead, China should maximize cooperation with other stakeholders and protect its interests by blending them with the interests of others. The PLA Navy has already conducted joint exercises with several navies in the Indian Ocean, showcasing its commitment to maritime security. In the world of literature, 2024 promises a diverse range of new books from both local and international authors. From crime and thriller novels to fiction and First Nations writing, there is something for everyone. The Australian literary landscape is flourishing, with established and emerging authors showcasing their talent across various genres and themes. So, book lovers, get ready to expand your reading list. Turning our attention back to the Middle East, the Israeli-Gaza conflict in 2024 shows no signs of reaching a resolution. The war aims of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Gaza's Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar seem unattainable, leaving the Palestinian territory in a state of devastation and an open-ended Israeli occupation. The situation remains grim, and a peaceful solution seems elusive. In U.S. politics, Maine has barred Donald Trump from the state's 2024 Republican primary due to his efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. This decision is likely to face legal challenges, as Trump remains the frontrunner for the Republican nomination. The battle to prevent him from running again is intensifying, and it will be interesting to see how it plays out. Lastly, the conflict in Ukraine is expected to continue throughout 2024, with no clear end in sight. Both Russia and Ukraine are capable of fighting each other to a standstill, leading to a stalemate. The outcome of the conflict may ultimately depend on political decisions made by international players. While a negotiated settlement remains the most foreseeable outcome, the situation remains complex and unpredictable. And that's a wrap for today's news. Remember, folks, the world is a fascinating and ever-changing place. Stay curious, stay informed, and keep those questions coming. What are your thoughts on these news stories? I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.